Watching your cholesterol and blood pressure is something many individuals hear on an ongoing basis from their healthcare providers. Yet despite the warnings, most people continue on with their regular diets and routines. The first step to getting your blood pressure and cholesterol under control is to understand the difference between good and bad cholesterol and high blood pressure, and how they can affect your overall health.
Well, now that we know that there's a difference between high blood pressure, good and bad cholesterol, let's head down the path to actually finding out what we should do in our everyday lifestyle to make those changes to our life to actually make us a healthier person. I'm joined here today by Rob Rogers of PharmaSafe here in Swift Current, and I guess we hear that all the time when we go in for our annual checkup. Many people hear that you need to lower your cholesterol, watch your blood pressure, and I guess in this sort of a fast-paced environment that we live in these days, we're always on the go, working, doing after hours stuff with the kids, things like that. Does these things just sort of get put on the wayside? I guess does that have to do with our diet and just overall work ethic? And
a lot of it has to do with our diet and our fast pace of life, as you say, and our more sedentary lifestyle than we used to lead. People used to be a lot more active. People used to eat a lot more fruits and vegetables and fiber. And today's diet has a lot more fat in it through fast food. These things are quite damaging to your arteries and to your heart. And the sedentary lifestyle leads to obesity and diabetes. And these are all major risk factors for risk of heart attack and stroke.
I guess do cholesterol levels and your blood pressure, do they sort of coincide? Just doing a lot of reading up on both of them, they seem that they have a lot of similarities as far as like prevention?
That's right. The end result is that they do damage to the heart. High blood pressure causes a high pressure gradient that your heart has to pump against. And that's hard on the heart over time, and eventually the heart becomes, it's normally like a tight muscle, and eventually it becomes flaccid and loose and not a good pump anymore because of the effect of high blood pressure. Cholesterol is different. It leads to clotting of the arteries, especially the arteries that feed blood into the heart muscle itself. And as these arteries get clogged up and clotted and hardened, you can't get good blood flow to the heart, and leads to things like heart attacks and strokes.
And I guess, does this just affect older individuals, or does it can it happen to anyone?
There's young individuals who can have heart attacks. Some people are genetically predisposed to high cholesterol. They can't dispose of cholesterol, and every odd time you'll hear a tragic story of a young person dying of a heart attack. But definitely with time, it gets worse and worse because you have more and more time to damage the heart through high blood pressure or through the clotting of the arteries.
What methods are out there for us to, for instance, measure our blood pressure?
Well, most drugstores have large blood pressure units that are free to the public, and those are always helpful because they're spur of the moment. And there's also some very good home blood pressure monitoring meters now that aren't that expensive, and people can take their pressure at home. And it's much more telling of a reading than the reading that they get in the doctor's office when they could be a little uptight. There's a phenomenon called white coat syndrome that makes people's pressure go up when they're in the presence of a health professional. So those are very good methods of testing those. Cholesterol, however, mostly done through a lab test at the hospital that's prescribed by your doctor.
Okay. And I guess would those rates vary from individual to individual, man to woman, age, as far as, let's say, blood pressure, like as far as the ideal range?
Blood pressure is pretty much the same in man and woman and age-wise, but it's a range. There is no set blood pressure reading that you're supposed to have. It's not 120 over 80, although that is a good reading, but it ranges from 120 to 140 on your top reading, your systolic blood pressure, and 60 to 90 on your bottom reading. And then once you get over that, you get into moderate high blood pressure and higher blood pressure as it goes higher and higher. But it's definitely a range, and a lot of people get caught up in, is that a good reading? Well, you have to look at ranges.
And what about cholesterol?
Cholesterol, there's more of a defined reading. They look at your total cholesterol and your good HDL cholesterol, your bad LDL cholesterol, your triglycerides, and there's varying levels depending on whether you're diabetic or not, those sort of things. There are different readings for different people with different risk factors.
Now, you've told us how to measure both our blood pressure and our cholesterol. I guess, I guess once we find out that we do have issues with both of those that are too high, I guess what's out there and what steps do we take to lower them?
Well, we're lucky, and especially in North America, we have all kinds of options to lower cholesterol, raise the good cholesterol, lower the bad cholesterol. There's all kinds of diet options. Blood pressure, there's probably 30 different medications on the market, and this is all done in consultation with your physician, of course. but there is all kinds of options out there. Medicine has come a long way in the last 50 years in these regards, and that's why people are living longer. The average life expectancy has went way up in the last 50 years. 100 years ago, the life expectancy was about 30 years younger, and it's mostly to do with these new drugs that we have on the market.
So once again, it all comes down to working closely with your family physician and your pharmacist to head down that path, whether you're dealing with high blood pressure or a cholesterol issue then.
Definitely, it's important to have your medical professional working with you, and the more people you have working with you, the better. Your doctor, your pharmacist, and even a dietitian can be a very big help as well.
Well, thanks for joining us here again today. I know you've certainly opened up our eyes to the world of cholesterol and blood pressure again, so thanks for all of your helpful information here again today.
Thank you.
And this wraps up another PharmaSave Live Well Health segment.